www.thebridge99fm.com. At the minute, we're also being listened to and carried via www.irijamradio.com. And we say hello also to our friends in the tri-state area, New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut, where our parent company and sister company as well, Jam Radio, is located. We're very pleased at this time to be joined by the president of the People's National Party, Mr. Mark Golding, who is our guest on the telephone at this time. Good morning, Mr. Golding. How are you?
Morning, Richie B. I'm well, and good morning to your listeners here and all over the world.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. We haven't spoken for a minute. A lot has been happening, and we want to get to it right away. First of all, Mark, let's look at some of the things that are happening as it relates to what the government is either doing or not doing. I know that you've been quite vocal as a party in relation to the crime statistics and what is happening on the crime front here in this country. What are your perspectives on how the government is handling the crime situation? And do you have strategies that you would like to recommend that should be adopted at this time?
Well, unfortunately, the crime situation in the country is very bad and has got significantly worse this year over last year. Murders are up 10% in Jamaica this year. And it's quite clear the government really doesn't have a strategy for dealing with this. They were relying on states of emergency and other repressive measures. That was taken to court. The Constitutional Court ruled that the use of the state of emergency as a crime-fighting tool was unconstitutional. And since then, we have really heard nothing more about what they plan to do about this situation. We believe that we need a balanced approach to tackling crime. First of all, the emphasis has been under this government on strengthening the JDF and allowing the JCF really to remain in a stagnant situation in terms of numbers. We need to strengthen the police force and then enable them to do their jobs effectively, especially in the areas of investigation, case management, and ultimately resulting in accountability for those who break the law through effective prosecutions. We also feel that the balanced approach means we need to tackle the root causes of crime in this country, which are largely to do with deficits in social investment, especially in the areas where we have very high levels of crime. So we're talking about parenting skills, we're talking about the standard of the early childhood institutions and primary schools in those areas, leveling those up so that we have all our children ready for secondary school by the time they come of age. We're talking about providing opportunities for youths who leave school without subject so that they don't go off the straight and narrow and aren't enmeshed in the culture of gunmanism and badmanism and so on, but giving them the tools really to become constructive citizens of the country through mentoring, training, remedial education, and so on. This is very important because you can't repress people into being good citizens. You need to provide them with opportunities, and we don't think this government understands that. They have denuded the Peace Management Initiative, for example, which was quite successful in bringing levels of crime, especially reprisals, down in communities where it was rolled out. We had the Unite for Change initiative under the last PNP administration, which was really bringing all stakeholders together to try and focus on uplifting youths who might otherwise go off the right path. Those were abandoned by the present government and not replaced with anything meaningful. So we feel the strategy is wrong, and the next PNP government will focus on having a balanced approach that tackles the root causes of crime through appropriate social investment in the areas where it's much needed.
Okay. Let us turn our attention now, Mark Golding, to your views on what is happening with the pandemic and the government's handling of it. And again, similar treatment, some of the suggestions that you would like to put forward to the government for consideration.
Well, unfortunately, the government really took some political decisions which resulted in the pandemic getting out of control in Jamaica. The first of those was the calling of the general election last year, just in the aftermath of opening up for emancipation in 2020. And this resulted in community spread taking hold in Jamaica. Then over the Christmas period, we allowed an influx of people from overseas without proper monitoring of their behavior while they were here. The quarantine restrictions were allowed to be flouted, and we had a very serious second wave in the early part of the year. Then in late June, early July, they decided to open up entertainment events. And this was in the context where the levels of vaccination were very low, the lowest in the region other than Haiti. And the Delta virus was spreading all across the world. And with our very open borders, it was quite predictable that it would be here if it wasn't already here. And now we have a terrible third wave with the hospitals being overwhelmed. You know, we've had over 1,800 people dying of COVID, most of them this year and so on. We've had problems with oxygen and the procurement of oxygen, resulting in people allegedly dying from a lack of oxygen in hospitals. The situation has been very poorly managed. We have suggested that the government needs to expand the vaccination program so that it can be brought into the communities and encourage people to take it. At this point in time, we're not in favor of mandatory vaccination because we feel the level of hesitancy in the population and outright objection to vaccination is still far too high to try and force people to take it against their will. But we need to sell the idea of it through proper communication of the facts and the science behind it and make it readily available to people. And that, I think, attempts have been made to do that recently, but we feel it's a bit late and we feel it needs to be intensified, especially the public education aspect of it.
All right. There are some who vow that they will never take it, and it seems like that is making up a great percentage of our people. That would pose a challenge, I suspect, to any government, Mark.
Oh, it would. But the truth is that I've encountered people who have taken that position, and through gentle persuasion and showing them the facts, they have changed their mind. And in fact, some of them are now strong supporters of it, of getting vaccinated, having been vaccinated themselves. So I don't think people's positions are hard and fast. You know, there's a sort of spectrum of views on the matter, and there are many people who are hesitant because they're unsure and they want to be reassured about it through proper information. Yes, there are a few people who, for religious or other reasons, are dead against it, and those people have their right not to be vaccinated.
On to another matter. Why does the People's National Party think that it is critical for there to be further, and as you put it, full disclosure from Minister Vaz in relation to the visa matter?
Minister Vaz is a member of Cabinet and represents the people of Jamaica at the highest level of government. He applied for, apparently, a waiver in order to be given a visa, personal visa. He got a one-year visa, but the terms of that waiver were that they were granted under a provision in U.S. immigration law, which is applicable to persons who have some connection or association with drug trafficking. And we feel that that requires clear disclosure as to the circumstances behind that waiver and the revocation of his visa, as to why it is that that section of the waiver provision was used. In his case, what is, if any, is his connection with any kind of drug trafficking. He needs to clarify this. If he's not willing to clarify it, in my view, he's not fit to serve in that high position and should step down, or should be made to step down by the Prime Minister if he refuses to do so. But he must clarify the situation. The ball is in his court to do so, and I urge him to do so quickly.
At this stage, then, you're not specifically asking for him to resign. Is that? Am I correct with that interpretation?
Right. No, we have not called for him to resign. We've called for him to make full and frank disclosure as to the circumstances around his the revocation of his visa and the grant of a waiver under a provision which suggests some association with drug trafficking. He needs to clarify what happened, why that is the case, and based on that clarification, a decision can be made by the public and indeed by us as to whether or not it is sufficient for him to remain in the position he holds or whether he should move on. We haven't prejudged that situation.
Have you put a timeline on that request? And if it's not met, then maybe further calls or actions might be taken by the PNP?
Yes, we haven't sort of given him a deadline for doing so yet, but we called for him to do so on Saturday. Today is Tuesday. We think, if he doesn't do so in the next day or two, then, further action on our part would be warranted.
Okay, do you care to say what kind of action might be next?
I don't want to be preemptive of that, Richie. We'll have to hear what he says. Yes. He's coming to Parliament today to make a statement, for example. That's an opportunity for him to bring the kind of clarity to the position that we've asked for. Okay. And so, I don't want to prejudge what he's going to say today in Parliament.
Got you. Having looked outwardly, can we now look inwardly in terms of what's happening with the People's National Party. The recent Don Anderson poll said 19% of the people that were targeted think that you're doing a poor job as the opposition leader. Mark Golding, what is your response to that?
Well, 19% may think so, but that suggests that, the 81% don't think that. So, that's a positive thing in a sense. Look, I'm new to the leadership of the party. I was elected in November last year. Before that, I was not seeking a public profile. I was very happy to serve as part of a team and bring the skills that I have, somebody who's been successful in business, a leading corporate lawyer, somebody who has a clean reputation out there to assist my party and to assist the people of Jamaica as best I can. So I think I need to be to get to know the people of Jamaica, or rather allow them to get to know me better. Unfortunately, because of COVID and so on, some of the programs that we had in mind and had started, so in terms of that process, we had to curtail from February onwards. So, and there are a lot of issues in the party that we've been resolving. We've had to really work hard to get the internal structures of the party to work as it should. We've been trying to build unity within the party through a unity committee. We've established the OT Fair Plus Fund, which is now actively assisting indigent party workers. We have a junior shadow cabinet. I want to encourage them to be more active. And so we've been doing a lot of things. And importantly, we've been sending the signal out that, unity is important and we're fully behind it, but also in discipline, in terms of how the party's affairs are conducted, will not be permitted or tolerated any longer. So, the organs of the party that have been set up to achieve that are now working. And I think this is an important step forward for the party because we have been, I think, plagued by a lack of attention to the need for internal discipline, especially in the way in which our members communicate with the public. We don't see, for example, our main opponent in the political sphere behaving that way. And I think we have lessons to learn in that regard, and I think we're learning that now.
There's a demonstration recently. Did you see that demonstration at the party HQ as an act of indiscipline, for instance?
Well, that was a very small gathering. I think it was 6 or 7 persons who attended. They have a right to express themselves as they see fit, as long as they're not breaking any laws. So no, I'm not really focused on that at all.
But nonetheless, Mr. Golding, we rise this morning to the news that one of the participants in that demonstration, Karen Cross, has been expelled. Some would form the view that it has to do with her appearance at that demonstration, or it could be other matters. I don't know if you care to say.
Yeah, no, it had nothing to do with that demonstration. The disciplinary committee had met in June, I think it was June the 23rd, to hear complaints that had been made against Karen Cross for her behavior over the period from October to April in respect of certain social media postings that she had made, which were deemed to have brought the party into disrepute. And they made findings of fact on that and made some recommendations. And their report was sent to the officers, or some of the officers of the party, in mid-July, and we brought it to the executive committee for adjudication under the Constitution on last night. And the executive deliberated on the matter long and hard, very respectfully, and it was felt by the vast majority of the members of the executive that the facts as found in that report from the disciplinary committee warranted the firmest possible action, and she was expelled from the party with immediate effect. She does have a right of appeal under the Constitution, which she may choose to invoke or not. That's up to her. But as it stands now, she has been expelled from the People's National Party.
You might have heard, or you might not have, but she spoke with us earlier this morning, and she found the matter of the expulsion from the party. We're talking about Karen Cross. She found it quite laughable, and will in fact, she says, continue being a member of the PNP. That was her reaction to that development. I'm just putting that forward.
I didn't hear it, and I would choose not to comment on that.
Right. Going forward, though, Mark Golding, how do you intend to restore not just unity, but confidence in the People's National Party? Do you find that very challenging a task to accomplish?
I think that we are making strides forward in terms of getting to a better place of understanding within the party. There's been it's not something that arose overnight. We have had issues internally for some time. We've had several leadership contests that have each left some issues behind, but we are working hard to resolve those. In terms of confidence, I think that we have been quite effective in bringing the government to book. So far, we've been our voice has been heard, I think not by everybody and as much as we would like, but it has had an impact on the government's behavior in certain respects. And I think we need to communicate as well as possible, improve our communication. And I think also we need to finish up the process now underway of really assessing our philosophical approach as a progressive movement in the third decade of the 21st century, so that we can articulate a clear vision of what we stand for that will resonate with the people of Jamaica, that they will understand what the PNP is all about now. And our policy program needs to be responsive to the key issues facing the country. And that is what we're working on, and I'm confident that when we roll that out, the people of Jamaica will find it positive and will respond to us, because the government is really making a hash of it in so many areas, whether it be COVID, whether it be crime, whether it be the cost of living and so on. Their response to the hardship being faced by the Jamaican people. We are seeing, for example, the prices of basic food items have gone through the roof, and the government has really done nothing to assist the people for over a year, and people are really struggling. We're seeing, the electricity is going to be increased in price, and at a time when the economy is going through such a hard time, they're even talking about raising interest rates as the economy needs to recover. There are a lot of issues that the people of Jamaica will depend on us to advocate for on their behalf, and we will continue to do so. So I believe it's a question of getting our message across more effectively, being on the ground, getting the public to know the leader of the party, the new leader, and having a policy platform which answers the critical questions of our time facing this country.
All right. Just before you go, Mark Golding, since you took over the reins of the People's National Party, maybe in your quiet times you reflect on a lot of things. There's always going to be some for and some against. But if I should ask you to grade yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of your leadership of the PNP since you took over, would you care to say what grade you'd give yourself?
Well, I really wouldn't think it's my role to grade myself. But what I would tell you is that there's always room for improvement. Yes. I'm a learner, but I have come to this whole thing with a clean heart and clean hands and the intellectual capacity to learn and improve, and that's what I'm doing.
All right. I wish you well, Mark. Always great talking with you. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Take care. Bye-bye. You too.